Welcome to the Art of Classiness Podcast, a show where we redefine what it means to be a classy lady. And sometimes it's messy. I'm Robin.
And I'm Deborah, two friends turned classy ladies who are here to discuss life's ups and downs, navigating the complexities of adulthood, and how the gift of friendship is essential to belonging.
Today we're switching things up. We spend a lot of time talking about women's friendships, the joy, the drama, the support systems. But what about men's friendships?
We're joined by two best friends, Seth and Jason, who have figured out how to move past the old man-up stereotype and build a friendship grounded in openness, laughter, and real vulnerability.
From how pop culture shaped their expectations to what women get wrong about male friendship, we're diving into the world of guy friends and what we can all learn from it.
So follow along, give us your feedback, and don't forget to like and subscribe. What's up, classy ladies and gentlemen?
What up, what up, what up?
That's right. There's a man on the land. We've got two men on our show today. But first, Robin, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited to have Seth and Jason on here today. For those of you that don't know, Seth is my husband, aka Podcast Poppy. And this is his buddy, Jason. They've been friends for a really long time. And I think that they have a really unique relationship. And so we're so excited to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, welcome, Seth and Jason.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Hello, classy ladies and gentlemen out there in the world.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not classy enough right now. Like I had to put on like something more classy to wear to this sort of thing.
Classy is messy.
Yeah, classy is a state of mind,
man.
Look at me. I'm in a hoodie. This is my signature look. So...
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for coming on. We're really excited to have this conversation. You know, obviously on this show, we talk a lot about the importance of friendship, and it's mostly centered in our female experiences. And I think that there's a lot that Robin and I probably get wrong when we think about men friendship dynamics. So we wanted the opportunity to hear your story and also just understand more about maybe the misconceptions that exist and how you guys have potentially disrupted what it looks like for guys to be friends and close and share things with each other as well.
Yeah. So we want to start off by just learning a little bit, like, how did you guys meet? What was your friendship meet cute?
I'll let Jason take this because he was kind of the founder of the house, if you will. And so I think hearing the story first from his perspective makes sense.
Yeah. So, Seth and I met, about 12 years ago. We were Craigslist roomies, if that's still a thing these days. And yeah, both living in San Francisco, both
broke,
in our 20s and trying to figure things out. And I had lived there for a few years before him. But, at that point, I was sort of the longest tenured guy in the house. And so it was up to me to find the next roommate that we wanted to bring in. And it's a 4-bedroom place. And so you're always sort of looking at potential candidates to come in and figure out if they're going to be a good fit, if they're going to really gel with sort of the vibe and the culture that we had sort of already set up. And, Seth is just one of those guys who's so easy to get along with. He has such phenomenal people skills. A guy who could just immediately fit right in, get along with everybody. Still had to yell at him to clean up all of his dishes, but beyond that, he was a pretty solid roommate, and yeah, it just sort of took off from there.
It's crazy that you went into a post-collegiate living situation with someone that you'd never met before. I'm curious from either of you, at what point did you realize, like, oh, we're friends? We're not just roommates, but we're like actually friends.
Oh gosh, I don't know if there was like a specific time where it was just like, oh, we're friends now. Type of thing. I think over time, we hang out, we would go to the gym together sometimes, we would go and have dinner or lunch together. We definitely watched a lot of sports together at the house. We had this really great setup. I mean, in San Francisco, to have the amount of space that we had in our living area was incredibly rare. We just had this massive area, and it was supposed to be like a dining area and a living room. But us guys were just like, well, we don't need a place to eat, so let's just make this a massive living room. And we did. And so we put like a massive big screen. What was it, like 100-inch projection monitor, Jason?
Yeah, it was like 120. It was massive.
Oh my God.
120-inch projection monitor with surround sound. We had like a big couch out there. And yeah, we just eat in front of the TV because we were always watching baseball or football or basketball or whatever it was. Whatever was on, we were watching it. And that's how we, I guess, connected initially, was in the house, after work, or on the weekends, just kind of sitting there, drinking, having fun, watching sports, talking shit to one another, when our teams were playing one another or whatever, and just bonded kind of in the house. And then it grew into, activities outside the house. And so it was just because you're in close quarters with these individuals, you just kind of become close with them, just like if you were on a basketball team or a football team or something else. It's the proximity factor. But even afterwards, I think we realized that it wasn't just proximity. It was the fact that, these people had great character. They were wonderful human beings. And it just kind of grew into a stronger and stronger friendship from there. That's how I feel about it, at least.
Aw, that's awesome. And so, in my experience, rare. I have not had the best roommate experiences. How did that translate once you guys moved away? Like, Seth, I know you went to LA and then later Austin.
Mm-hmm.
How have you maintained that closeness?
Well, I think with Jason in particular, like, we're not in constant contact, right? We catch up here and there whenever we're kind of thinking about one another. I don't know really how to say it. Like, it's very easy to just kind of catch up with Jason. Like, we'll catch up, we'll have phone calls. I was in LA and I would come back up to San Francisco, or Dimitri is from the LA area and he'd come down and I'd meet up with him. And then when that was happening, we'd say like, hey, Jason, you want to come down? Or, we'd always kind of keep each other in the loop if we were going to be in each other's cities, and made an effort to, at least us three connect. And if one of us was actually going, then we would invite the other just in case they could make it. And then over the years, we just kind of stayed in touch, and we always kind of have at least one trip a year, ballpark, whether it be skiing, whether it be ACL, whether it be
A wedding.
Yeah. We always try to make an effort to at least see one another once a year.
That's great. And I think that's really when the rubber meets the road with a friend. It's really easy to feel friendly with someone that you just have to see all the time, whether it's a roommate or a coworker or someone you go to the gym with. But when you make a conscious effort to bring them into different parts of your life, like, that is, to me, really when a friendship kind of takes root and can often be transformative.
Yeah.
I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk more about the vulnerability factor that exists between male friendships versus female friendships, right? We know that women feel very close to each other by sharing, by having conversations. You can talk on that in the phone. And I think a stereotype of male friendships is that you guys don't do that as much. But I'm wondering, it does seem like you guys seem to be, really close in that way. So what is something that you can talk to each other about that you don't really share with other people in your lives?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for guys, there's always sort of a fear of oversharing with other guys. And so you're always sort of a little bit guarded, a little bit afraid of sharing too much. It's just sort of, I don't know, guy code to a certain degree. You're like, no, I don't want to know everything about your life, or don't give me all the weird stuff, because we don't really hang out all the time. And so the concern of making something feel weird all of a sudden because you brought up some weird topic or, gave too much of yourself is always, I don't know, I think a concern for a lot of guys. And so when it comes to those really sort of deep-rooted friendships, like I have with Seth, we can talk about whatever we need to talk about and, share big moments in our lives and anything that concerns us, or that things that we need to sort of bounce off somebody that we really trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that trust and loyalty factor for guys is really, really big. And we sort of save that for the closest of friends just because we have that highest level of comfort.
Yeah, and I think it's also, we've been through a lot living in a house with one another, right? We've seen the good side, the bad side, and everything in between. And especially for me, right? Like, when I was in San Francisco, I was partying and doing some weird stuff, right? And, Jason was there and he witnessed all of that, and he could have very easily written me off as this kind of person. I don't want anything to do with them. But he's not quick to judge. He's someone that is willing to get to know someone on a deeper level. And I think he really saw my character even through me figuring out who I was and what I wanted to do with my life and being in a new city and just going through a big change in my life. And so through that, there's a trust between us, right? Because he's never made me feel guilty. He's never made me feel judged for how I've acted in the past, where he could have easily have judged me for some of the actions, and he chose not to. And so from my side, there's that trust with him because I know that, not to say that I can just go and do whatever I want, right? But to say that he's consistent and he's going to be my friend even through some of the funky stuff that I end up getting myself into.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point too. Like, you can tell me anything. At the same time, you also know that I'm going to hold you accountable too. Like, if I know you're on something, I'm going to let you know. And I think that's part of our friendship is being able to look at the other person and be like, "You sure about that?"
Yeah.
Have to really be like, all right, like if this person is coming to me and saying something, which, he normally would never do, I have to take that seriously and have to be really thoughtful about what he said and reflect on whether whatever I'm doing is sort of the right approach.
I love that so much. And I want to touch back on what you said a little earlier, Jason, about how like around certain guy friends, you'd feel uncomfortable oversharing. And I'm curious why that is. Like, do y'all have any insight? Like, is it just that maybe everyone is craving that, but they don't have a language for it? What is your perspective?
Yeah, I think a lot of male friendships, they kind of start off, I think most friendships are at a very surface level, but guys especially, it's sort of, you're on a need to know basis. If you don't really need to know, I'm not really going to go out of my way to share something unless like I feel like I need to tell you for whatever reason. And so when you kind of start guarded like that, I think it's difficult, especially with guys who just don't have a million friends. You really want to be careful about saying weird things or doing weird things or giving, somebody too much of yourself before like they might be ready to handle that. And so you're just really sort of careful about anything that might rock the boat, especially like with guys too, like we like to rag on each other a lot. And so if you're going to set yourself up to just get roasted over something, like you also might be kind of careful with what you might say.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because you bring up sort of the learned behavior of maybe how other friends have treated you in the past. If you've been vulnerable and they just rag on you, you kind of learn not to go to that person anymore. So there's the influences of people in your life, but there's also a lot of pop culture influences out there that I think that guys learn from and potentially use as maybe a framework. I mean, we talk a lot about pop culture on this show and how it has influenced our friendships and the way that we look at friendships. And women have such a rich library of movies to choose from when they just want to be there for the girls, right? But I feel in pop culture, guys don't really have those references as much, or if they are, I don't know how steeped in reality they can be. So I'm curious from your perspective, are there guy friendships in pop culture that you either feel are totally unrealistic or any that you actually deeply relate to?
I grew up playing sports, right? And as someone that loves sports, you watch a lot of sports movies. And so you see the dynamic in the locker rooms and being a part of a sports team and how there is a lot of roasting and dogging on one another. And that's what you think it is. And then when you go through it in real life, I mean, I feel like kids reenact what they see in shows and movies. And it's depicted in movies exactly how I experienced locker room life in real life with my own sports teams. And so I do think that that translates into how people act because you don't know what the right thing is when you're in those scenarios. And so you reference what you've seen and how to act in those situations. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's what I had to say.
So it's Mighty Ducks?
Yeah. Mighty Ducks, Remember the Titans. Like, you have a bunch of good movies. Waterboy, Friday Night Lights. Like,
I'm thinking of The Sandlot right now.
The Sandlot. Yeah.
Yeah, I just look at like a lot of the guy movies are all like buddy cop movies or they're, war movies. And you got these two masculine guys and, they're both ragging on each other and, trying to one up each other and be more of a badass than the other. And they're in these like life or death situations like all the time where, they learn to like trust and, have these bonding experiences. Not then they're calling each other brother and all this stuff. And you're like, I don't know how many life and death situations y'all are in on a daily basis, but like, doesn't really happen to me often. And so it makes for great movies and great stories. But I think at a certain point, it's unrealistic in a lot of ways for guys to watch so many sports movies or buddy cop movies or, whatever, and really feel like they're getting an authentic experience in terms of what male friendship really is.
And even in those buddy cop movies, it's not until like they are in the life and death situation that they're like, did I ever tell you I have a daughter? You're like, how did you guys not go over that at some point,
Are you seeing any movies or TV shows now that are reflecting more authentic models of friendship?
Not really. I think, there's some older ones. Like, I think it's sort of like a satire on it is, I Love You Man.
I was thinking about that one.
Two normal guys who have that sort of silly back and forth. And of course, they have to turn it into a bromance because that's what's going to make it more funny. But I look back to like a How I Met Your Mother. You see like Ted and
Marshall.
Yeah. Like they were college roommates, they're buddies. They would just sort of hang out, and it was just sort of very calm, and they just knew each other so well, where they were just very comfortable with each other. And I think something like that's about as close as I can think of in terms of something that's somewhat accurate.
Love it.
I was just going to say it's such an interesting topic because like this is a passion for me and Deborah, and we watch so much trash TV as well.
And some good TV.
But we just see so many variations of the female dynamic, and like this is proof right here, like how difficult it is to think of something outside of what the cliche version of a male-centered movie is.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that kind of feeds into our own stereotypes that we create when it comes to how we see guys being friends. I mean, some hold true, right?
100%.
I mean, there are so many times where I've asked my partner who's gone golfing, like, hey, how's so-and-so and his wife? Like, I don't know. Didn't even come up. You know what I mean? Or like, hey, so is he liking his new job? He got a new job? What do you mean you don't know that information? You just spent 8 hours with him. So there are things that I think are true when it comes to how men share and how women share. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think women get wrong about male friendships?
Not a lot they get wrong, I can tell you that.
We are always right.
It is pretty plain.
Yeah, I agree. It's, oh, hey, like we don't talk to each other every day. We don't have to talk to each other every day. And I think at the same time, like, Seth and I can, hang out for a weekend and we can go right back to where we were the last time that we hung out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sort of a peas and carrots type situation. At the same time, I also know that erodes over time as well. The longer you sort of stop maintaining those friendships, oh, hey, we're going to go on their annual trip because we're guys and we just always go on an annual trip.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, like that starts to fall apart. You need to maintain that in certain ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just,
really good point.
We don't have to talk every day, but we still know who each other are. We still know what each other value and definitely still, really appreciate having those friendships where I know I can call him whenever I need to and he's going to pick up the phone right away and be there however I need him to.
Mm-hmm. And I think you make a good point there too, Jason. Like when we do these trips, it's not just an annual trip for us. It's very intentional. We didn't do a damn thing the whole entire weekend. I think we literally sat in Jason's kitchen and living room and patio and talked all of the first day. We didn't go anywhere, I think, until like maybe way later, and we just went to go eat and came back to the house. But, we were just talking. We were catching up. And it wasn't just like bullshit. It was real stuff, like, yes, there's a small talk of just catching up, like, what have you been up to, blah, blah, blah. But then like someone would say something and then someone would continue like talking about that and their own experience that they've had with friends or whatever it may be. And it just turns into this like hour-long conversation of us really diving deep as to like, well, why is that? And why do you think that is? And like, we're asking each other deeper questions, which I don't think is normal in a male friendship at all.
No, especially when guys get together for a weekend, like there's this expectation, like we're going to go raid, we're going to go drink a bunch of beers, and we're going to go watch all the sports, and we're just going to go do a bunch of cool things, and we're just going to have fun. And then like you leave and you're like, oh yeah, that was fun. But like you don't really talk about anything substantial, but we hadn't seen each other in a minute. And so, yeah, it was really important to, I think, all of us just to sort of sit down and just check in with each other and catch up and just sort of, it's a great opportunity for us to learn from each other and what we're going through and kind of bounce that off of how we're doing things in our life. And it's just, the two of them, I always learn more about myself and I always learn more about them. And it makes me better having conversations like that.
That's beautiful. And actually, like the way you guys just described like your weekend together, that's literally what we do with our classy ladies. We put on our PJs. We don't leave the house. We sit around in a circle eating candy and cookies and that's all we want to do is talk, catch up, support each other. I love hearing that you have that too.
Most definitely. And kind of going off fighting the stereotypes, Seth, I really want you to talk about your bachelor party because you guys did something untraditional and I would love to just hear your perspective and Jason, your experience with that weekend.
So to preface this, by the time I got married, I had already gone on like 4 or 5 bachelor parties, right? Within like a year to year and a half, whatever it was. And so we had done the partying, right? And a lot of these guys were the same guys that I've been going on bachelor parties with, right? So we've partied, we've had our fun, we've done different cities, we've done all that stuff. So I didn't want to repeat that, right? And that was really important to me. And so what I decided to do was to do kind of a check-in, right? A check-in with the guys. I think we had 10 people, 12 people. I can't remember how many there were. Yeah, it was a pretty good group. And I have a friend in Austin who is a life coach. And I talked to him. I was like, hey, I would really love to do like a men's workshop. I knew that I can count on my hand like 4 or 5 people that I knew were going through some particularly rough times in their life, whether it be financially, whether it be relationship-wise, whether it be kids, whatever it may be, right? And so I didn't want this to just be a debaucherous weekend where we're just getting fucked up and then someone's breaking down in the corner, because they drank too much and they were getting all emotional. I wanted it to be very constructive, and especially because I was asking on my bachelor party, like no one was going to say no, right? For the most part. So it's kind of cornering these guys in to do it to where they wouldn't make an excuse. And it worked out really well. Like we ended up spending way more time in there than was initially anticipated. People were opening up. There was some crying involved, which is huge for a guy to open up so much to where they started getting emotional in front of some people that they've never met before, right? That is incredibly rare for a guy to do. And so the life coach, I thought, did a really good job of having direction for the day, what he wanted to achieve from the interaction, and letting everyone in that room know that, hey, we're here for you if you want someone to talk to, whether you've just met them or whether they've been friends for years. And that it was a safe place and that it was a place that no one was going to really judge you. And we were really lucky that people bought into the concept, bought into the idea. And I think it was a very fruitful conversation to where I think we got closer and we learned things about each other that otherwise we would have never learned, right? Because we weren't prompted to. We would have just gone about our days drinking and having fun and being friends. But to learn that about your friend that you've known for years and that they're struggling with something, one, it allows you to talk about it further, but also if they're struggling with something, they can lean on the other person, another friend, to keep them accountable and to check up. And so I thought it was a really wonderful and successful experience.
How was the experience for you, Jason?
Yeah, I was sort of fascinated with all of it because I didn't really know anybody there. I knew Seth and I knew Mitri, and that was pretty much it. So it was my first time meeting all these guys. I had met your brothers before, but we had been partying and drinking and up to that point. And so I kind of knew what kind of crowd I was in. And it was, a very fun party crowd, which bachelor party totally get. But yeah, I wasn't sure if there would be people passed out in the corner or people would just, not take it seriously at all. And, somebody walks in with an 18-pack of Coors and just goes, all right, let's keep this party going. Because that's just, with guys, you just don't really know if guys are really going to step up for something like this because it is a little bit weird. It is uncomfortable. It's not something that we normally do. It's not something that, we're encouraged to do really even. It's just sort of a thing. And so seeing everybody just know how important it was to Seth, really to say, hey, this is what he wants to do. It's his bachelor party. And we can tell that this means a lot to him, that we're all here and we're all willing to, have these conversations. I think allowed everybody that opportunity to say some things that they probably wouldn't normally, especially in a group of guys and especially with a lot of strangers and even like with friends that they've known for a really long time. It could be more difficult.
What a unique experience.
It definitely was, for sure. I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all. And I thought it turned out great.
It'd be funny if the life coach then was a stripper.
A virtual one at that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was virtual.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Now I can't get that picture out of my head.
No, I'm sorry.
He's
do
like
that
this.
to you.
He's a bodybuilder dude, like super ripped.
Yeah. Yeah. Bodybuilder dude. He has like long Fabio hair, but he's also like Samoan. So it's like he's Hawaiian. So
Jason Momoa vibes.
yes.
Oh,
yes.
I'll hire him. Okay, so we got to know some inside jokes here, some tea between the two of you guys. So maybe walk us through one memory that still makes you laugh every time one of you brings it up.
Errands. Saturday errands, man. It cracks me up every time. And we give Jason a lot of shit for this, right? Like, this is us dogging on him, but it's his thing. It is his thing. And God bless her, Heather has taken up Saturday errands and has accepted you for who you are. But it's just funny.
Tell us more. What does that mean? Jason, do you get all your chores done on a Saturday?
Oh, absolutely. That's my go-to day. I just have my to-do list set up. Back in the day when I was young and single and I'd have a whole navigation of like, all right, I want to go here and then here and then here and then here and here. And then after about 3 or 4 hours, I would just have like my whole life like figured out, knocked out, grocery shopping, if I needed to pick up like dry cleaning, if I needed to, I don't know, like.
It's like really obscure things too. He's like, oh, I went to the watch store to go like fix a little chink in my watch and like all these little things. I was like, dude, how old are you? Are you 25 or are you 45? Like.
Yeah, I just got into this like weird habit of like anything that I like, oh, hey, I need to remember to do this. I would just start putting it on my to-do list. And then there's just something psychological about it for me. It's like, if it's on the list, it has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And Saturday is the day. I don't have anything planned. I'm going to get all of that taken care of so that I can go out and have fun Saturday night, with friends, grab dinner, whatever. And then I can guilt-free watch football all Sunday. Was sort of like the setup.
Yeah.
And it sort of remains to this day.
Love that.
So errands. That's what makes you laugh.
It makes me laugh every time, man. Because I know I could call Jason on a Saturday and I'll be like, I guarantee he's doing errands. And sure enough, hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, just out doing this and that. It's like, called it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how Seth gets anything done. At work, great, crushing it all day, every day. But then when it comes to like life stuff, I'm like, I don't know. I can't remember if I ever saw you do a load of laundry. Like, when are you doing all of this?
Everything Seth does is sporadic.
Oh my God. Yeah. Completely unstructured, which is I think part of the reason why we can just laugh at each other so much, because our personalities are so different in that way.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there's such like a comfort when you can peg somebody, right?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Seth, when you can call Jason and you're like, I bet you're doing errands, and he is. Like, there's just something comforting on both ends. You feel seen and you feel known in those moments.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Jason, do you have a memory?
Oh,
Yeah.
parking tickets.
Yes.
This dude, and it goes back to who Seth was as a person back in his 20s. So in San Francisco, when we were living together, I mean, they were on top. The meter maids were just undefeated. You expired and 30 seconds later, there was a ticket on your windshield.
Oh, yeah.
And this dude was just a habitual line stepper when it came to spending the least amount of money like on the meter. And at one point there was like, I just remember we were at home and there was this stack like this big of parking just sitting on the cabinet, and they would keep coming every couple days, and then he would just let them stack up. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I got to go pay all those parking tickets. So then he would just sit down for like an hour and just like type all like the IDs in. And then every once in a while you would see him like curse, and it would be like a really expensive one, or it would be late. And so he'd be charged extra. But yeah, like every week there was a new parking ticket coming into our place. And I can't imagine how much money he spent on parking tickets
dude.
during that time when we lived together.
That is hilarious. You know what's funny? When Seth and I started dating, you had your M3, and I think your last car was the Mini Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something like some kind of paperwork that you received. I can't remember what you were trying to do, but they were like, you still owe money for unpaid parking tickets. So it continued on, Jason. It continued on.
Oh, I know it did. It didn't stop in San Francisco, but
Nah, no.
What's a moment where you thought, this is my bro for life, if there is one?
yeah, that's a good question. I think you just sort of build that up over time. Like I just remember all those nights where like we had this like ritual, like we would all get home from work and we would all make dinner and then we would all go sit on the couch together and watch whatever sports game like was on the projector at the time. And we would just spend so much time hanging out on that couch every night after work together, go work out. Like we had this just like every guy would just like, oh, hey, like we come in, they would just like microwave their food or make something really quick. And they would just walk straight up and find their spot on the couch so that they could like hang out. And it was like social hour, like at the apartment where all four of us would just be sitting there hanging out, watching sports, chatting about our day, whatever. And it was just something that, yeah, just sort of helped build up that friendship very quickly. And then all of a sudden, you have all that time you're talking, oh, hey, let's go do this on Saturday. Let's go do this. And then, it slowly breaks out, just from, a roommate friendship into an outside friendship. And then that continues to build up and up and up and up. And, then just understanding, especially as we've gotten older, we make all these friends over the years. And, some friends are still the same people that they were when they were in their 20s and, love them to death, but just doing different things and making different choices at this point in my life. And I've noticed that the people that are doing similar things to me and have a similar outlook on life are the people that I tend to gravitate towards the most and, really value their friendships because they're the ones that are helping me along the way and inspiring me to continue to grow and continue to push the same way they are.
Amen to that, brother.
Brother. How do you feel like these kinds of friendships have benefited you as a whole especially in your adult life?
They've been incredibly beneficial to me. Like it's so wonderful to know that I have people championing me in my corner, right? And it's wonderful to know that I have these people that love me for who I am, what I bring to the table. They enjoy my company. And it just makes, through that friendship and that camaraderie, it brings a joy and a self-worth knowing like, wow, like I have community, I have family, I have this group. And so it's a really wonderful, amazing feeling to have, especially as you get older because you become more and more siloed, right? That proximity factor is not there anymore. And so when you get to meet with people like Jason on our trips or whatever, and you catch up and you realize like, God damn, like, man, we think very similarly. We're at a similar stage in our lives. Like we're trying to do similar things, but in a different way. And it just kind of solidifies like how I'm thinking. And it shows me like, hey, I'm thinking about things the right way. Like Jason said, it's inspiration as well. So yeah, I think it's great. It's been great for me at least.
Yeah. And I think beyond the family, you need friendships as well because, like there are people in my life, family members that just can't really relate to what I'm doing with myself. And so if I just, relied on my family to have certain conversations, they wouldn't really understand what I'm trying to do or where I'm trying to go or how I'm trying to do it. And so, having those sort of outside influences, also there's this weird conversations that like you don't really want to have with your family that at least I feel much more comfortable having with a friend at least first and just really making sure before I go and have some very serious conversation with a family member that I'm on solid ground and just sort of having that sort of person to check in with sort of first and be like, hey, I'm not about to say something really stupid or ridiculous or, cause, fire alarms to go off in my life for whatever reason. And, Seth is as a guy like that, who's, doing very similar things with his life and who understands just who I am and what I'm trying to do with my life. And so I can go to him and be like, hey, So I'm about to go do this thing over here. What do you think? And he can give me his full and honest opinion, where I can really know that it's coming from a good place. And, he really understands what that means before going to somebody who maybe doesn't.
We always have each other's best interests in mind. And I can't always say that with every friend, because we all have grown up with people that are incredibly selfish. And I will say, like, Jason is not a very selfish person. Like, he is willing to just kind of go with the flow, and he's someone that is awesome. And then you have Dimitri as well. Like, he'll take the shirt off his back just to give it to you, type of person. And Jason's the same way, right? So, like, we have created this group where, again, championing one another, but we always have each other's best interests in mind. The intention is never to hurt one another. And I think having that trust in one another is very, very special.
We have one last question to end this portion of the podcast. If you could say one thing to the guys out there who are listening, who do struggle to find these kinds of relationships with their fellow male friends, what would that be?
It's just like dating, trial and error. You're going to have to put yourself out there to find something special. And if you're not willing to do it, then you're not going to find it. And it sucks. You're going to find a lot of duds. You're going to find a lot of people that probably hurt your feelings. And, you move on and you learn from that. So I would say it's similar to dating. You just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah. And I think, similar to that as well, like, don't allow the outside influences to negatively affect. Now, there's all these stories out these days about, men, they aren't as manly as they used to be, or, their testosterone levels are down, or, not having as much sex as they used to, like all these sorts of things where you're sort of like, well, I'm a man and, I do manly stuff, right? And so you sort of think that you have to be a certain person, but it's all just complete BS, and you can just be yourself. And like in dating, if being yourself is what's going to get you the most success, is just because you're not trying to be someone that you're not.
Okay.
That's great advice. Well, thank you guys so much for being vulnerable and open with us and busting some of the myth around how men are supposed to be, the masculine influences that tell women, at least, that men don't really connect like this. So it's really refreshing that you guys have such a deep and meaningful friendship with each other. So we really appreciate you sharing today. Okay, well, while we have you guys here, we thought you could participate in our next segment, actually our next two, but let's get started with the next one. This is our class act of the week. This is where we take some time to recognize a person, a place, or maybe just something you saw online that you felt was classy. Jason, do you have a class act of the week?
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah. Let me give a shout out to my girlfriend, Heather, the classiest lady I know. Yeah. So I met her 2 years ago, almost to the day. And, no matter how tough a day is, or how tired she is, or how little time she has, she always just makes it a point to do something to bring joy to herself whenever possible. And that can be as big as like going to Target and getting stuff to decorate the house with for the holidays. Like, she loves reading her book, and she has these like really ugly tie-dye shorts that I hate, but she just like, they're the most comfortable things in the world for her. And so that's like just her jam. Or it could just be something as simple as like putting a little extra flavored creamer in her coffee because she knows today is going to be a tough one, but she just makes a conscious effort to like fill her day with happiness however she can. And I remember in the beginning of the relationship, I don't know, I thought it was kind of silly. Like, you don't need that much whimsy, people. Like, if we could just do our jobs and just like, live our lives, we're good. But then I began to realize like, that's so stupid, And so I started thinking to myself, like, am I the problem? Am I just like an old grump who just doesn't think about having fun or making a conscious effort to, have that sort of thing in my life? And yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And you can choose to be happy. And I just sort of began to realize how much happier I was around her, and how everybody else around her is just happy. She's just this infectiously happy person because she chooses to pursue that in a really, really, authentic way. And it's become my favorite thing about her. And I think that's what class is. Like, it's not always sophisticated. It's not always refined. I know you ladies like to call it messy, but she's ready to share positivity and kindness to everybody. And I can't think of a more admirable quality.
Well done, Jason. Well done.
Oh, so good.
Lucky lady.
So good.
It's awesome.
Yes, Heather is a wonderful gal, and we're so happy that you guys found each other. You're such a great match, and That is a fantastic class act.
Really is. It's the little things, man. It's the little things.
Okay, well, let's get to our final and favorite segment, class or crass. We are going to give you guys a scenario and would love to hear from the panel. Do you think this is classy or is it crass? Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. This is the locker room question.
Ooh.
We manned it up for you this week. You're in a new relationship and sharing about her with your friends. One leans in and asks, "So, how's the sex?" Classy curiosity between bros, or is it a crass invasion of privacy?
Depends on how they're asking it, I think. Because if they're asking, like, what's it like? Versus, like, are you guys having good sex? Like, more curiosity that way. Because some guys can come off a little sleazy and you're like, dude, that's kind of gross. Like, that's my girlfriend type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it just depends on how they're asking in the context, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, because no guy is ever, I think, going to be 100% serious with that question. Like, there's going to be a good 20% of that's just like sort of playful with it, just to sort of see what your response is. And so it's a guy thing to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to ask you this sort of like invasive or ridiculous question just to kind of keep the witty banter. And there's a million different ways that you can go about it. You can throw a nice comeback in there about, someone's mom or something like that is kind of where most guys would go to, but at the same time, if it's, a good friend of yours who's really like, hey, like, how you doing over there, champ? Things good? You're like, things are real good. Yep. And you can totally do that. But
yeah,
a lot of it's just to sort of see how the other person reacts when it comes to that sort of locker room stuff.
Well, speaking like locker room specifically, so you're just around other guys that aren't necessarily your friends. Do you ever overhear the kinds of conversations where people do overshare in a way that is crass?
Totally. It's very common. It's incredibly common in the locker room.
So yeah, I guess that's kind of what we're
Yeah.
curious about. Like, we just want to know more.
But what do you talk about in locker rooms? Could you be specific?
Guy code.
But yeah, I think there's something about it too, because you're going to have the crass guys who are going to ask you these sort of, very vulgar questions or, say vulgar things. And, you're in the locker room, you're with the guys, so you can kind of say whatever offensive thing that you want and nobody's really going to take you seriously. And, especially when you hear other guys talk about their relationships and their women in the locker room, it's very telling, how they respond to that sort of question, just who they are as a person and as a partner and whether they're really taking this seriously or not. Because that sex question could definitely be something where somebody just kind of overshares as a brag. And then you're like, all right, like this guy is kind of trash and doesn't take this woman seriously at all, which, is just, especially if they're, in a serious relationship, is really kind of sad to hear. But, there are definitely those guys out there that just sort of think a certain way and definitely use the pedestal of the locker room to crank it up a couple of notches.
Yeah, I think there's an episode of Sex and the City where Samantha, who's, with a new man every single episode, I can't remember which relationship this was with. I think maybe Richard, but she doesn't want to talk about their sex life around the girls. And that's how the girls know that she is in a serious relationship, because she actually respects his privacy versus the other ones where they were just sort of very transactional to her. So I kind of have a feeling that guys are the same way, that when you actually meet the one, that when you fall in love, that becomes not a topic of conversation anymore. Am I correct on that hypothesis? Please say yes.
I think it really depends on the guy.
Yeah, I mean, but guys are going to do it in their own way. Guys are, the non-answer is a very easy way for guys just sort of jujitsu the situation and not give anything away. And you can kind of tell when someone's giving you the runaround. You're like, all right, like, I'm just sort of messing with you, dude, but I'm going to back off, or you have to turn it back onto them somehow with a nice witty comeback. But if it's a solid burn, every guy will appreciate it.
So interesting.
It is. It really is.
So you would say it's classy if they approach it with genuine curiosity about how your relationship is going.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they want to make sure that you're happy and enjoying your relationship and that everything's good on all fronts, then I think it's totally classy. Otherwise, it's pretty crass.
Okay.
There we go. There you have it.
Yeah. It's kind of like that episode in Platonic with Seth Rogen, and where they're talking about, how often he's having sex with his fiance. And he's like, we're not really having sex, and that's a problem. And is that really what I want for the rest of my life? And if it's coming from that perspective, like trying to help someone, then yeah, it's definitely classy. But just to boast, or they come at it from a sleazy angle, like definitely crass.
Love it. We appreciate all this feedback and all of the inside behind the curtain of male friendship. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So whether you've got a buddy you've been friends with forever, or you're just figuring out how to open up, today's conversation shows that connection isn't about gender, it's about showing up.
And maybe also laughing at the ridiculous stuff you've gotten through together. Because let's be honest, that's half the glue in any friendship.
If this episode made you think about your own guy friends, send it to them. Have a heart-to-heart, or just start appreciating the little ways they show up for you.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Art of Classiness, or email us at artofclassiness@gmail.com to share your friendship stories.
Thanks for listening, and remember, classy is a state of mind.
So mind your classiness.
Bye.
Bye.